purpose. What's going to be the purpose for your dating? It's basically your characteristics of choosing somebody. That's the purpose for you, and how you should choose people based on is it going to glorify God? Is your purpose, because God's purpose and our purpose has to align. God's purpose is not to complicate our relationship. We do that. So how we should deal, not to complicate, not to stay on the honeymoon phase, if you remember. And then that's kind of us setting up for the dating. And last week, we're just about to start in a way, the journey of dating. But then if there is a back history that can hinder us not to continue full-heartedly, like in clean heart, how we should leave that baggage. We discussed that. Starting today, it's an assumption that we're in starting the day. And maybe can we close the door real quick? Because we're going to get real today. We're going to have real talk. All of us. Today's topic is the fruit of patience. The fruit of patience. We give that title, the fruit of patience, because what is the fruit of patience within dating time? And when we are patient in the dating time, one of the fruits, one of the satisfactions, one of the God's blessings within a marriage is sexual relation. So today we're going to talk about sex. Our objective for today is to clear the air about sexual intimacy. Actually, we put that sexual intimacy, but we'll later on define sexual or sex by itself and intimacy by itself. Because sometimes we intertwine that, like we collaborate that both, but there is a little bit different. We're going to address that. And then the other objective is the advantage of abstaining premarital sexual relation. We're going to address that. And then, okay, we learned, but what about some of us who were on the wrong path? So we're going to address that also, how those that are in the life of, sexual immorality, dating, if we are falling, how we could get back on track. We're going to address all those. When you can, you shouldn't show your hands, and you can, but when is the last time, if you remember, when is the time that you learned or knew about sex? Middle school? So like 11, 12?
No, middle school, like 7th grade.
7th grade. Okay, way down. Okay, yeah, in middle school, at that age, 12, 11, even below that, that's where we learn. So today what we're going to see is, based on the education or the exposure of sex, it's from different venues. Some we learn from school or class, but not so much so, because before that mostly we learn from our friends maybe, or from medias, right? Medias like movies, and even sometimes cartoon movies, right? So we learn before that, in like very young age, even when our body is not ready to kind of thinking about that. It's from the medias and all of those things. And then that ruined our perception of sex. That ruined us. Some of us, including me when I was back home, some of us, yes, we learn from the media and everything, but from the family or from our peers' perspective, what do we learn about sex?
Not good.
Not good. Don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. It's like, there's no direction, you're just going to figure it out. So that also on the other spectrum, that was a disservice for us, because from the right place to find the right information, we didn't get it. But then now the media will come in, our peers, our friends, and we have the distorted perception of sex. So that ruined it for us, how we think of sex. Today's lesson, what we're trying to do is we actually root it more, but in a good way. We're going to root it more, but in a good way. You'll see it. The idea is to learn about sex, not from the world perspective, but from the godly perspective. And then at the end, my compelling argument for you is eventually when you live your life, to incorporate God in every step of your life, right? Even your marriage, your dating time. So to know and to understand that God is with you at that moment. So to have that, think about it, like when you're having, you talk to a girl or girls with a guy, and then because of the wrong perception and understanding, you're going to try to pursue dating and then sexual relation, right? So let's say you're in the room. But have you ever imagined if, I know it's kind of creepy, but if your father is right next to you there, right? Now, let's say it in a spiritual way.
Damn. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't be like God watching it.
Well, that's what the Bible says, right?
Don't make me scared.
Remember the story of Joseph? We're going to actually learn that before. Later on, we're going to mention the story. Why did Joseph run and flee of that sexual, drive with the lady? Remember the wife of the Pharaoh? She wanted to sleep with him. She actually get naked to sleep with him. What was his response? He ran. Well, there is that, but why? What was his response? He said, I can't do this while God is in the midst of me, while God is next to me. That's the faith. So he was thinking that in every place that I am, even in the situation of the marriage, God is next, right there next to me. So we're going to ruin it a little bit, but it's going to help. So our theme for today is in due time. I underline that one because it's necessary. In due time, sex is to see the glimpse of unification between man and God. And the happiness that brings from it. Remember, from the cultural perspective, don't talk about it and everything, but actually we're going to talk more about it. We're going to actually make it, and not make it, the compelling argument from the Bible is, it is a good thing. It is a blessing. It's a gift of God. It's a perfect gift of God. In due time and in the right way. So in due time, sex is the glimpse of the unification of God and man. Even in the action, it's a unification, right? Male and female. But the unification of God and man is manifested in that. The theme verse, marriage is honored by all, and its bed is undefiled. Marriage is honored by all, and its bed is undefiled. Can we say together, its bed is undefiled?
Its bed is undefiled.
So when St. Paul say this, what is he talking about? Is it just regular bed? Or why, he's talking about marriage and wedding and everything. Why wouldn't he say, the reception is undefiled? Or, the wedding shower is undefiled. The bed is undefiled. It's not talking about just a regular bed. It's talking about sexual relation. It's undefiled. What is undefiled means? You know the definition? So let's define defiled. You know what defiled means? Desecrate something that is sacred. Desecrate something that is sacred. That's defiled. So undefiled means it is sacred. It is sacred. The unfortunate thing that we learn from the world is it's just an act. And we get drawn into it because of temptation, and we just notice it as just an act for it. That's instant gratification. But it's a sacred act. And God became man became God And through that, mankind acquired being God, and then the satisfaction, the happiness of being one with God. And how does man become, God became man? If you remember in Galatians, I wrote it over there, Galatians chapter 4, he says, but when the said time has fully come, God sent his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those who are under the law. When the time came, this tells us about the patience. And when the time came, that's when Christ came to this world, to unify us, man and God. Same way, in due time, the unification represents us being unified with God. It's a sacred act. We have to think sex as a sacred act that we do even within our faith. Because if you really think about it, sacred and the other word sacrament, it's the same word, right? Same derivative of word. It's a sacrament. What is a sacrament things? With the visible action, receiving an invisible grace. That's sacrament. Baptism. There is a visible action. You receive the invisible grace of being born of the Holy Spirit. Sex, in that sense, there is a visible action, but there is an invisible grace that we receive. That grace is fulfillment, and then being one, the look of, or the yearning of being one with God. That's a glimpse of it. So from here on, we'll define a little bit what sex is and what sex is not. That really is going to help you guys to understand. So the first one is sex is one of the sacred acts that God created to benefit and to remind mankind of the pleasure of being united with God. Read it again, because it's very important. Sex is one of the sacred acts that God created to remind mankind the pleasure of being united with Him. It's through that act, the satisfaction, the pleasure that He gave, if it's a glimpse. Understand that having that eternally in your life, the satisfaction, that's a glimpse of it. But later on we'll address why it just only now is a glimpse of it. It's because of our fall. That the intention of God creating us is one God, one man, and one woman in that sacred relation, receiving that satisfaction, happiness, and pleasure. That was the idea. Does anybody know the original word for sex in the Bible? No. Knowing somebody. K-N-O-W. No. To know somebody. The Bible says Adam knew Eve. And then because of that, she conceived. It was knowing. The Bible used the word know. Why? Because it's not just only a physical act. Because it has a deeper meaning than just a physical act. To know means to connect with one another in a transcendence level. It's above spiritual level, things that we cannot put our hand around our heads, but it's something transcendent. It's heavenly. And it's spiritual level, because spirit, we don't see spirit, it's a spiritual level. That is the meaning and what actually sex is. And it's also, because of knowing, it's also how you know about that person. It's the person's inner personality. Because, not that, but in marriage, that's when you know the person being vulnerable and then being open, and even being naked, right? Person becomes vulnerable. Knowing that person in the inner personal level, that's knowing. That's why the Bible says it's knowing somebody. And then you also know that person in an emotional level. So that's why the word word no is used in the Bible. And if you really, really be honest with yourself, that's what you would see that in your life. In an unfortunate past, when you get in that kind of situation, you know that the vulnerability that comes with it. And when we say it's a gift of God, we know in the Bible that it's a gift of God because God, when He created a man and a woman, He didn't tell them, oh, by the way, do these things first. And by the way, even tending the garden, that wasn't the first commandment. The first commandment is be fruitful and multiply. Be fruitful and multiply. And in our political language, it means sex. That was the first commandment. So when you think about this, you should think that it's a sacred act. It's God's commandment. And am I ready to be vulnerable and know somebody at a deeper level that, it's above spiritual level? Am I ready to do that? The second part that we should know about sex is sexual relation or interaction between a husband and a wife shouldn't be ashamed of. It's not something that you should be ashamed of or like, I will talk about this. I understand from the cultural perspective, but as we say, it's sacred act. It's God's given act. But the problem is, if you remember the story of Adam and Eve, they were naked. They were happy, fully satisfied in happiness. But as soon as they committed the sin, they knew that they were naked. And then they feared, ashamed, guilt. The only way that we should be ashamed of and shouldn't be, but feel guilt is because of if we were doing it in the wrong way. But in the right way, it's a sacred act. It's a blessing. It's something it's a gift that's given from God. So if that's the case, sex is meant to be special and enjoyed to the fullest, and the empty space is free of guilt. Free of guilt. And for you, all yourself, all your life, just be honest for yourself whenever you have time to contemplate. If you're going the wrong path, wasn't there a moment in our experience that we didn't feel guilt? Be honest. But that wasn't the purpose of it. It's a sacred act. Even so, it's a sacred act within the church, in the sacrament, we bless it. We bless it. Why do you think, those of you who saw the sacrament of marriage, the priest would anoint with oil, with holy oil, the husband, the groom, and the bride? That's like a kind of like a signature. It's a proof that your marriage, your sexual acts, and all of those things is blessed by God. And in turn, it says the bed is undefiled. But when you're wrong path, there's always that guilt. There's always that fear. And to prove that, whenever you have, unfortunately, if you have that experience, let's say a long time ago, if you see the person that you encountered in that sexual act, what do you feel inside of you? Why? Because of that fear, that guilt in your wrong path. But even in the marriage, was there any guilt? That's the full satisfaction. 1 Timothy chapter 4, there's a very nice verse. It says, the Spirit, which is God, clearly says that in later times, some of the people will abandon the faith and follow deceiving spirits and things taught by demons. And those demons, what do they do? In the next sentence, says they forbid people to marry. Because that's not how we created to be married, to be one. Two people to become one. For everything God created is good, and nothing is to be rejected if it is received with thanksgiving, because it is consecrated by the word of God in prayer. We consecrate it. We honor it. It's not something to be ashamed of. In the right way. Why do we consecrate and give it a higher value and gift? Because God did so in our life. The way that God bestowed the emotional feeling, the sexual drive and everything, God designed it so that we could enjoy it. So much so that He is so excited for us to receive that enjoyment. Let me give you a different analogy. Recently, I moved. Me and my wife moved to a different place from where we used to live. And me and my wife, we wanted to kind of surprise a person. And she was so excited. My wife was so excited, I'm gonna, surprise that person. And what did I do? I ruined it. So I found that person in the church and I was like, oh, you're coming to next week, right? Like, oh, next week, what is next week? And then there's another person who knows this surprise event and like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, yeah. And then I tried to, change the subject, but the person already knew about it. So finally, the person told the relative called my wife, congratulated her. And when I get home, so she was really upset, and understandably. But why, though? Why? If you really think about it, why? Because she was so excited to surprise that person. She was so determined and so happy. Any of you like surprises? I like surprises. Some of you might not, but one thing is for certain. Every one of us are really happy to surprise another person, a person who we love. Why? Because we wanted to see the happiness on that person's face, right? You get what I'm getting my point now? Same idea. The way that God made sex is He was in our way to understand that He was so excited. So I can't wait for my son, my daughter to enjoy to the fullest. And He's waiting for us to enjoy. See what I give you, what I give you. Sometimes we blow that, right? We go on the wrong path and think about how God would feel. This is not the way that I intended for you to be, the utmost happiness. This is not what I intended. But God worked so, in our sense, hard for us to enjoy to the fullest, but when we go in the wrong way, we just blew it. And we wouldn't receive the fullest of happiness. One way to ruin for your idea again is think about it. In that sexual scenario, think about it. God was excited for you in the undefiled bed time for you to the fullest enjoy. And He was excited in waiting, but now when you act in the wrong way, see what He was going to feel. Not only Him, how are you going to feel? You're not going to get the fullest experience of it. That brings us to the next point, that sex is not something that is perfect. Instead, it's a perfect gift from a perfect God. Sex is not like how God told him about the garden, tend the garden. That's a completely different way, because now he have to work some things to blossom the garden. No. When God created sex, He created it perfect. But is that the word God tells us? The world tells us that you need to practice to be good at it. The way that devil rules our life is anything that God created for us for our enjoyment, and how He excitedly created for us, He finds a way to distort the meaning of it, to distort how we should receive it. Eating, for example. God created the garden to do all this, enjoy. But now we found one to not enjoy all of it. Sex, the same thing. He wants us to enjoy, but we go our way and get disappointed. Yeah, there are a lot of people that would say, no, I'm not dating, or I will date just to see if that person is quote unquote compatible. And the way that they know that they're compatible is by sleeping with each other. Okay, now, to know what that leads you to, okay, this might be compatible, what about the other person? I have to try it. Now you're going to continue to compare. And comparison is a never-ending loop. You compare here, okay, this is good. And then compare here, well, that's better. And then there's lots better. What about that? That one is better in this way, and then this one is not. So finally, you know what's going to happen? The unfortunate thing, this thinking practice leads to comparison. In this mentality, there's never be satisfaction, but only settling. You're going to settle without the satisfaction. At the end, you'll be, okay, I might as well just sit with this person, it's okay. But your mind and your heart is still searching for the better sex. But the way it's created is being perfect. There is nothing you can add on it to perfect it. That means God didn't do it perfectly. And the other point that goes with this is sex is divinely intuitive. It's divinely intuitive. Our forefathers, our foremothers, and all of them, we would see that, like, who would sit down and then tell all whatever that we heard in the internet right now. No, but most of them, if people are living in the righteous way, they're happily. They live happily. But for us to live happily, we need to change it in this way. We need to do differently. One other point that what sex is not is, sex does not bring satisfaction. But through sexual acts, God brings satisfaction. Yes, it will be the sexual act, but God is the one who gives you satisfaction. When is Adam and Eve knew each other? Was it in the Garden of Eden? No. It is out of the Garden of Eden. In the Garden of Eden, they were fully satisfied. The satisfaction that they would get from sexual interaction, they already got it. They already received it eternally. But now, after the fall, there has to be some act to remind them of the happiness what they used to have in the kingdom of heaven. And that led us to different problems, because now, for us, we need that satisfaction without God present in that sexual act. Keep trying, we keep trying, and every time that when we try, it becomes less satisfying, and less satisfaction becomes less possible. So it says, but when God came out of the picture of satisfaction, even from sex, even sex becomes less possible. The satisfaction that we get from sex becomes less possible. In the prophecy of Micah, there is a very important verse. It says, therefore, I have begun to destroy you. And the story goes before that, how God did a lot of favor for the people. He brought them from different destructions. He saved them and all of this, but they still continue to avoid God. You remember the missing link that we learned. And then God spoke through the prophets. And then from within this prophet, by the mouth of this prophet, says, therefore, because you are strayed away from me, I have begun to destroy you. And the destroying, don't think it like, okay, God, lightning bolt, destroy. But us going away from God, that's destroying ourselves. And ruin you because of your own sins. You will eat, but you never get satisfied. You will store up, right here in the idea of money or commodity, but even like happiness. You will try to store up, but saving nothing. Does that seem familiar? And to be honest, it is familiar in our life. We try different things, but the satisfaction is still not there yet. Why? It's unfortunate. We hear what people do, right? Well, I'm not satisfied with one person, so let's do three people, 3 times, 3 songs. Or let's do 4 songs, or something. Why? Because it's satisfaction. Let's do foreplay, and all of those things. Why? Why? Because there is no satisfaction in the heart. You can do all those things, but you don't get satisfaction, because God is not in the middle of it. Sometimes when we see what the world teaches about sex, we think it's something new, but it's not new, because human nature is not new. And in Jeremiah it says, because she, which is Israel, which is the people, defiled the land, not only the land within their hearts, and committed adultery with stone and wood. Have you ever imagined that this is in the Bible? People used to commit adultery with stone and wood. I don't think it's new, because we know what's happening right now in the world, right? Because we're not satisfied with the person, we need to come up with something that satisfies us. But still, that hole is not going to fill. Satisfaction can only be brought when God is present in your life. In the marriage, even in that sexual relation that with your wife. But other than that, you try, you don't get satisfied. The other point, sex is a sacred act again. It's a sacred act of becoming the hand of God. You become the hand of God. So whenever now you get that temptation, remind yourself, am I going to pursue this? When God gives me this honorable responsibility of becoming the hand of God? What does it mean, being the hand of God? Procreating. We use the word procreating because we are creating through the sexual act, right? That responsibility, the divine responsibility from God, am I just going to do it in the wrong way? So the point is not depicting sex as a bad thing. The way that we should depict sex is sacred and the most valuable, respected thing in our life. Since the world teaches us that it's nothing, it's just an act, it's just that gratification. I will know that person after that. No. Last week there was one verse we learned, if you remember, it says, St. Paul, should I put this body, which is Christ's body, with the prostitute? Because if I did that, means I married that person. You think it as lightly that sexual act is just an act, it's just an experience. But have you ever, in God's mind, what you are doing is you're marrying that person. You're marrying that person. So whoever goes in this different path, we need to confess. And God is trustworthy, that He would accept us, He would clean us, then we need to confess. Because most of us married with what number of people? Right? That's kind of a talk, especially in our generation. What's your number? That meaning number you married to that person. You're married to that number of people. So we need to confess. Sex is an expression of being totally selfless, not selfish. Because most, if you again truly search your heart, most of us are derived to the act of sex because there's something missing within our heart. We need to we think through that sexual act we will get it. It might be company, it might be assurance, it might be being felt like I'm good, I'm a man. All of those things. But all of those are being selfish. Sex is a selfless act. Sex should not be how you measure your acceptance in the world. It's not how you should measure that you're accepted in the world. Why? Because the world didn't create sex. God created sex. And earlier I was mentioning this point is very, very important. I think you should highlight it, whatever way you have to highlight it. But sex by itself is not intimacy. But it's a means of expressing intimacy. See the difference? Because some people think that by sexual act, I will get intimate. But it's not really true. Then why people, go to different people, like, prostitute and everything, why don't they get intimate? If just the sexual act is what creates intimacy. No. Intimacy is expressed through the sexual act. But just sexual act is not intimacy. It shouldn't be a measurement to validate that you are dating or you're not dating. There is this unwritten rule of dating that we've been fed since when we were young. You go on a date, it could be a movie, or a restaurant you ate, and then you bring the car, stop and before you drop her, go out and drop her. There's that, interaction, or should I kiss her? No, you kiss her, and then she would go, and then she would turn back and say, why did you come for a drink? And then they would go, and you know what's going to happen after that. And we learn that again and again and again and again within movies and the media. Now, for those of us who are trying to pursue dating, we think that that's the way, so we would do the same thing. So that shouldn't be the measurement of dating. The measurement of dating, week 3. Remember we learned about week 3? The purpose of it, that's the measurement of your dating. But sex by itself, it doesn't bring you intimacy. Those of you who are looking for intimacy with a significant other and still trying to get it because you're going maybe the wrong way. Maybe searching it to find it through sex. Sometimes even so, breaking your own rule. Maybe that guy would like me and create that assurance, comfort, and all of those things. Maybe I should break this law so maybe that girl wouldn't leave me. Because if she leaves me, I'll be not self-confident now. So whatever you've been searching of, the intimacy, self-confidence, assurance, and all of those things, you wouldn't find it by sex only. You have to find it without sex, and then that intimacy, that oneness after marriage should be expressed by sexual act. There is another verse, I don't know if I put it on there, it says, be still before the Lord and wait patiently for Him. Do not fret when people succeed in their ways. Do not fret. Do not be deceived or enticed by how the outward of the people seem that they receive the happiness or whatever. Do not be fret. Do not be compelled. Be still and wait the Lord. King David mentioned that. We learned all those things, but it's very easier than to be done, right? It's very easy. You can say all these things, you can, oh yeah, that's right, that's the best statement. But when we go to our own homes and everything, that completely changes. I put some not a solution, but tips of how to approach this. The first one is when you pursue dating, find someone who have the same understanding about sex as you. Now you find someone that the way that you understand sex, that the person who understands about that. There is one verse of, I don't know if you saw it on social media, we're going to give out a book too. There is one verse in the week 3 course. It's Songs of Solomon, chapter 8, verse 4. Anybody remember that? Songs of Solomon, chapter 8, verse 4. In that week course, there is only 2 verses from Old Testament. This is one of it. Alright, let me start. It says, "Promise me, O women of Jerusalem, not to awaken love until the time is right." Promise me. King of Solomon could say that. Promise me, O women of Jerusalem, not to awaken love until the time is right. Just as a woman, but also the guys. Same idea. So finding someone who would uplift you and encourage you to stay pure, to stay, vigilant of that sexual, drives. Find that person. Not the one that's 6 feet tall, without the whatever. Find that person. Second point, experimental mentality can be detrimental. Experimental mentality can be detrimental. A lot of our friends or brothers, even us, go in a different direction because of experiment. Because of experiment. Oh, I have to experience, I have to try it. Many people went to this road just to say, let me just try it, and never came back. Never came back. There's a story in the Bible of the father of St. Paul. His name is Demas. Demas was very honored by St. Paul. He just always, acknowledging what he did and everything. But one time what happened is he wanted to go to kind of city, like a Babylon city. He wanted to see it. And for the sake of this understanding and for our discussion, I would imagine he went there just to see it, to experience it. The world. St. Paul mentioned that he never came back. And he would honor Demas a lot of times, but right here, in 2 Timothy, when he was talking to Timothy about his life, he said, "Don't Demas? Demas has forsaken me, he left me." It was sad. Many of us would go in this direction just to experience, just to see. What is those all of us about that website? Let me just see it. What is that experience about satisfying myself? Let me just try it. Never came out from it. So if that idea of experience, understand that it's sometimes, and most of the times, if it is in a righteous way, it's detrimental. And thirdly, truly believe in the power of God to give you patience. You can't get patience just by your own understanding, or if I do this, if I do this. You need the power of God within you to have patience. So, what does believing mean? Sometimes we get a wrong idea of what belief means. Belief doesn't mean, I believe God, there is God. I believe about this. That's not belief. That's not a belief, because you can just say it. Belief is whatever that you know and understand, expressing that through action. That's a belief. And the way that you express that action is through gradual change. Every righteous person in the Bible they see God's presence little by little, day by day in their life. Finally, they would be like, I'm 100% confident in God. I don't care, whatever you told me, I believe in God, I'm confident. Why? They see a gradual grace of God within their life. So if you're struggling with sexual temptations, find a way to gradually see the grace of God within your life. Especially if you've learned all your life since 7 years old, it's hard to break that. But a gradual change. Maybe try to avoid to watch those things. Try to avoid the crowd that entice you of acting in sexual life. Find the little things here and then gradually see that how God works through you to change you. There is a story of Saul in the Bible. Saul is the first king of Israel. Israel was led by, before the kings, they were led by the high priest. The last high priest was as a leader was Samuel. But they're like, no, we don't want to be led by a high priest. We want a king like the Gentiles. They have like a king who's a good attire and everything. We want a king like that. And how gracious God, how patient he is, he says, okay, as a father, okay, I'll give you a king. He gave them a king, Saul, the first king. He was 30 years old. But then the story goes a little bit differently after that. Saul was a king, he was leading, and to some point it was good, but then he started relying on himself. He started relying, I will do things by my own way. And then one of the stories is there are a lot of enemies surrounding Israel. But how they are accustomed to do it is, before they fight, what they do is, the high priest would come, they do the prayer, the incense and everything, so that they would believe and receive God's power to defeat their enemies. So there were a lot of people, there were a lot everywhere, like the enemies, with all chariots and everything, they got scared. Saul got scared. He called Samuel to come and do the prayer and the incense. He was waiting. He lost patience. Said like, it's not done. Finally he decided, I'm going to do it myself. And then he goes to the temple, he got his own incense and everything. He started ascending the prayer. As soon as he started doing that, what happened? Samuel came. And Samuel told him, what did you do? What have you done? That wasn't your responsibility. Your responsibility as a king to lead the people. Then Samuel said, from here on, the kingship is going to be taken away from you. How sad is it? It's kind of similar in our life. We can't wait of the blessing, that happiness, can't wait. We say, I'm going to do it myself. And then we get into it. That's the hardest part. So truly believe that God's power would come in due time, and believing in that, like any temptation, sexual, whatever, He would rescue us and then give us the help. I'm not saying just believe, but believing is expressed through action. From here on, one of the main topics, very main topics is the epidemic, the pandemic of pornography. This subject, like in our, especially the mental health and things like that, those are kind of a little taboo in our culture, right? And we're trying to change that. But this topic is a taboo in our generation. 90% of us struggle with this. But we don't talk about it. We don't talk about it. It's a silent killer. It's a silent killer. From the young age, even in schools, like I've seen it, and it's so discouraging. And the way that you read is like, masturbation is healthy in your life, and you should do it. You learn that in school. Now we're fighting with the faith. They say it's okay. It's actually healthy. I believe that, the pornography industry, how much they make yearly? Yearly, $97 billion. $97 billion. So it's obvious they have to find a way to promote it, to make it look good, to make it look like healthy. $97 billion. And unfortunately, we become drawn to it. And now it become a norm that we don't speak about, but it's a norm. One thing is for certain, though. Pornography and masturbation is sexual immorality. It's a sin. And I believe, this is actually my statement, I believe in our generation, it is a true martyrdom for whoever overcame the struggle. A true martyrdom. A person who overcomes that's a true martyr. That's a true martyr. I believe the same way that, not taking away any honor, but same way that in St. George and everyone struggled at that time, for our time, especially, no offense of the guys, it's pornography. Whoever overcome that's counted as a martyrdom. Genesis chapter 38, verse 9 shows how God resents this action. There is a story of Ornan. Ornan is a guy his brother died, and in their tradition, when the brother died, he had to, remarry the wife so that she can be a widow. Cultural thing. But then he get married. But then he didn't want to know her. So it says, Ornan knew that the child would not be his, so whenever he slept with his brother's wife, he spilled his semen on the ground and took it from providing offspring for his brother. What he did was wicked in the Lord's sight, so the Lord put him to death as well. What do you believe? The Bible or the scientific? Medication or healthy? It's a sexual immorality. And it says in the New Testament, anyone in sexual immorality is not going to inherit the kingdom of heaven. This is a spiritual side. And even in the physical side also, when we're caught up by such acts of what we see, pornography, masturbation, all of those things, results sexual dissatisfaction and social disengagement. Now you're imagining what we see in the side. You imagine. You want that to be your life. Now you get into marriage, you wouldn't get that because your imagination is completely different. Now that dissatisfaction comes. You remember the satisfaction? It's from God. Oh, I'm doing that. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm just going to satisfy myself. God didn't die for anybody other. God died for you. And St. Paul says, sexual immorality, yes, doesn't hurt any other person. It hurts you, but you're the temple of God. And it creates social disengagement. People that act and it becomes so habitual with that act, it's like they don't want to be with people. They just disengage. Right? Want to be by themselves. Get tired and stay at home. That wasn't the purpose of our creation. If you remember, we said our purpose of dating is to impact the world, to be like apostles, to do amazing things with it for the glory of God. But now, even though when we have assignments, we're not, I don't want to do that. Right? That desire of doing other things is already gone. it also will take you away from the very first thing that you're looking for. You're engaged in that act to get satisfaction. Earlier, remember I mentioned, and then you try it again. You try it again to get that satisfaction. But you're still craving. You still want more. I heard a lot of ways like people, oh, until I get a girlfriend. That's just to satisfy myself. Hey, when you get a girlfriend, oh, until I get married. In marriage, what? To the point you don't have any excuse because it becomes a habit. Pornography and masturbation is like a honey. I read this in one of the books. It's like a honey that drop on your pants, the trouser, like a jeans pant. You know how hard it is to get rid of that? It's so hard. Now it became a habit. 1 Corinthians chapter 6. Flee from sexual immorality. All other sins a person commits are outside of his body. But whoever sins sexually sins against his body. We wanted to be selfish to satisfy ourselves, but not knowingly we're not being selfish because we're hurting ourselves. And this is the story of Joseph. I mentioned it earlier, but I really want to emphasize that you imagine the story. Like in your mind, imagine the story. Joseph is, happy, he's rich, he's promoted, everything is going well for him. He's right next from Pharaoh in status, but then the wife of Pharaoh, she kind of liked him sexually. She starts waiting for the right time to deceive him. One time, the Pharaoh left the place, the palace. And the story says it just became, at that time, just him and her. She take his hand, she put him in the room, and she take off her clothes. She becomes naked. That's what Joseph did. Amazingly, that works in our life if we really think about it. Joseph didn't contemplate. Joseph didn't contemplate. Didn't think that, oh, she's the queen. Oh, it's okay. It's going to be once. How can I, deny her because she's a queen? Oh, it looks nice. And all of this. He didn't contemplate anything. If you read the story when he did this, as soon as that moment, he ran out. For such kind of sexual immorality, you have to find a way to run out. Because if we sit and contemplate, just like for 5 seconds, we're going to fail. Oh, let me just see this picture. It just looks nice. We're going to fail. There's sometimes to the point, oh, I beat that temptation, so that doesn't do anything for me. So let me kind of test myself. And my body's tired. Any excuse that you give. But if especially your eyes, if it is attached to any sexual pictures or something, for those, especially again, you will fail. What you have to do is, like Saint Joseph, run. Run. The only reason that you run also is now, earlier we mentioned, because in that moment, in that action, God is in the midst of it. It's present. He's there. Like your dad is there. So how could he? That's what Saint Joseph said. How could I commit this sin while God is watching me right now? It's very easy. it's very easy can change to addiction, which debilitates everyday activities. We will become slaves of this sexual immorality. If we're not vigilant, if we're not careful, we become slaves. There is St. Paul says, I'm using as an example from everyday life because of your human limitations. Just as you used to offer yourselves as slaves to impurity and to ever-increasing wickedness, so now offer yourselves as slaves to righteousness. It will continue. The idea is when we make it a habit, truly we become slaves of it. Now you wanted to get satisfaction, but now you're a slave in it. Now you want to get out, but you can't get out. Does this seem familiar? It's in the future, but just by this idea of pornography, there has to be a huge seminar and workshop. Because it's a pandemic. It's every one of us is struggling with this. And in turn, it leads us for disengagement, not satisfying with our significant other, and all of those. There is one, for various little tips that I put there. This is just not to close it without giving you just a little solution, but this is not only it. You need a lot of work if you're a person to overcome this. The first thing is find your trigger. What triggers you? Is it being alone in the house? Is it being bored? Is it being angry or frustrated about something? What's your trigger? And then work on that trigger. If it is being alone, anytime find a way to be with people. That's why I say like most people have the same way, so I always say do not be alone. Do not be alone. Secondly, don't take your phone, your laptop to your bedroom. Don't do that. If you truly understand that this is sexual immorality, you don't inherit the kingdom of heaven, and it would tears away your life, your social life, your mental, and all. If you truly believe in that, then you have to act some way. You have to find some way to resolve that. But if you say, oh, I know better. If you do it, then you're not serious. I'm not saying in one time to stop everything, but find the little ways to cut back of this struggle. Don't take your phone and your laptop to your bedroom. It doesn't matter. Like some people will give an excuse, oh, because of my alarm. Buy an alarm. Find other ways, because if you truly believe in your mind that this is killing you inside, find a way. And the other thing is find the accountability part. James, the Apostle James mentioned that confess to one another. There's two kinds of confessions. I mentioned that before. One is the sacramental rites that we do in the church to get absolution. The second one is to get healing. And in that way, you have to confess to one another. Find an accountability partner, a brother, or maybe a sister, and help each other. Confess. Because sometimes the way that the devil attacks us is by isolating. He will isolate us. He would let us to think that I am the only one struggling in this thing. I can't tell anybody. And then that's how he defeats you. Find your courage to profess and to tell your friends, brothers, who really you think that they will help you, and have an accountability partner. You can call you, I'm struggling tonight. I have this urge. Your brother should call you the other person and find a way to talk to each other, and then, find a way to pass that time of the urge time. Even though it comes again and again and again, do that. And there is a story, to give you a little bit of hope. There is a story in the Desert Fathers in our church that there was one monk, and then there's one head of the monastery monk, which is the higher one. So the story goes that the new monk while he was praying, he struggled with temptation in his mind. So what he did is, like, he can't stand it. He's always like, he's bothered by it again and again. He can't take that thinking away. So he would go to the high, monk, and he would tell him, confess, tell him. He would tell him, I'm struggling with this. They do prayer and say, let's pray, and then go back. He would go back, and while he's trying to sleep or pray, the temptation comes again. And then he would run back to the high priest or the high monk. And the story goes, he does that more than 6-7 times at night. So if you think that, okay, just now I did it, you're mistaken. The thinking comes right next, like after 5 minutes. Thinking you did it again, it could come 5 times, 5 minutes next time. So every moment, because the reason has to be the godly reason, the spiritual reason, not just, okay, I did it and then just not confident now. Not self-ego. If I continue struggling with these things, I'm going to stray away from God. So by any measures, I'll have to find a way. Again and again and again until it stops. These are just a very few tips. There are many. And one of the things I say is try to confess one another. Try to go confession. And try to help yourself to overcome this. This is a very, very hurtful pandemic in our generation right now, especially the youth. So we need to work towards getting rid of that and having patience. I hope you have some understanding of the church's perspective about sex. And anytime that temptation comes, tell yourself that it's honored, it's a sacred act. Wrap up here. Glory be to God. If you have any questions, I'll take the question. You take it up.